जय श्री राम फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम टू भारत मार्ग। भारत मार्ग में आपका स्वागतम। विनय जी, वेलकम 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 फॉर जॉइनिंग अस इन भारत मार्ग। एंड आज का जो सब्जेक्ट होगा, okay, this is I'm going to talk something very, I'm going to request Vinay ji to talk something very special. Okay, कैनेडियन पुलिस बोलती है कि ये कनाडा जो है वो क्राइम कैपिटल है, हमसे होगा नहीं। Okay, Canadian police is saying we are unable to handle. Okay, let's talk to Vinay ji on what it means. But before going further, friends, please make sure to like the video, comment on the video, share the video with as many people as you can, and also, friends, if you didn't subscribe the channel yet, please make sure to subscribe the channel and also press the notification bell to make sure that you get notified as we go live. Okay, and also, friends, do know that we do send out one dharmic message every day for you to get connected to for you and your family to stay connected to the roots of Sanatan Dharma. And we will, you can just send us a WhatsApp to +16479644790 and stay connected. And also know we do accept donations, and we need your help, folks. We need your help, and you not only subscribing and all those things, but also you can support us by your dan. Okay, but if you like our what we are doing, and let me go to Vinay ji. Vinay ji, thank you very much for joining us. Okay, it means a lot. You always come and pour your heart here. And what does this mean? Okay, what does this mean? कैनेडियन पुलिस सेज कनाडा जो है वो क्राइम कैपिटल है, हमसे होगा नहीं। मतलब क्या है, आप जरा हमें समझ आइए।
So the irony of this is that it's not coming from some outside source or a third party or something like that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The irony of this whole thing is that this is actually coming from RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Okay. So there was a recent conversation with between Gary Clement and Brian Lilly, and basically they were talking about the force when I mean force, RCMP's inability to investigate serious national crimes. Okay, so basically what Canada has become is Canada has become a criminal hotbed, and the Mounties, which is the RCMP, are unable to handle it. So what is a criminal hotbed? There's money laundering, there's narcotics, there's organized crime, there's Chinese interference, there is terrorism. Are you with me so far?
Yes. I'm just pulling that.
These are all extremely
I'm just
serious
pulling that
crimes.
article. Yeah.
These are extremely serious crimes, and it's much more than the regular burglaries, car thefts, and murders, and extortion, and those.
This is the article you are talking about, right, Vinay ji? This is the article you are talking about.
Yes, exactly.
Canada is a crime hotbed. See, it's a serious this thing. Can't handle it.
Exactly, and this is in National Post. National Post is not a small newspaper. It's one of the national newspapers in Canada, and it's a very reliable newspaper. And
many of the newspapers are the mouthpiece of the government anyway. So that
but not National Post. Keep that in mind. National Post is not a government, bugle or mouthpiece or whatever you want to call it. Okay, National Post is one of those few newspapers that are very independent and very well written articles in that, and they're very unbiased, I should say. Okay, so in this particular book, they're showing, I mean, like they're not even talking about the smaller crimes like murder, I mean, like imagine murder is now being considered a small crime because there are much bigger crimes happening in Canada. And then there's the burglary which is happening on a daily basis, car thefts on an hourly basis, and extortion which is goes on, and so many other things. Okay, so Canada is become a haven for lawlessness. That is basically
Hmm.
what National Post is saying. All right, innocent people are paying for it with their lives.
And
Okay.
Vinay ji, we have been talking in Bharat Marg on it for a long time on this. जब भी हम बात करते थे लोग सोचते थे कि हम एंटी कैनेडियन है, ये है, वो है, एंटी
Exactly.
ट्रूडू है, you know and I also want to take a quick second to let the people know. See, you can see all Vinay Ji's video in a special playlist we have called Vinay Ji Talks, okay, because he has done a lot of videos on this aspect. You can go and check it out. Everything is available right there. Yes, Vinay Ji, please continue.
Yeah. So now Clement, that is Gary Clement, who was part of the RCMP for almost 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he was like he held various roles in the RCMP, from an undercover detective to senior roles. Okay. And he
Mm-hmm.
has published a book called Undercover: Inside the Shady World of Organized Crime and the RCMP. I recommend viewers to read that book. Okay. Clement
Wow.
explains how the neglect and dysfunction of the storied police force, okay, has left Canada utterly unprepared to combat the sophistication of today's transnational criminals.
Uh,
Okay, so this is basically what is going on with RCM in this particular article that was published in National Post. All right, now let's look at like each of these in kind of in more detail. All right,
mhm.
so in the 70s and 80s, crime rates were increasing in a linear fashion. Okay, they were kind of going up, and those days it was mostly the what do you call it, the mafia, and there was a lot of mafia and activities in Quebec, and even in Toronto, right? And
Mhm.
not so much in the West Coast, actually. And it peaked in the early 90s, and then it declined in a linear fashion until 2015. Okay. And when Trudeau took over the leadership of the country, everything reversed course. Okay. And then
Mhm.
immediately the crime rate started increasing because the number of immigrants who are coming in, especially those coming in as refugees,
Refugees, yeah. See,
those coming in as
Vinay Ji,
refugees.
one thing I would like to bring it to the attention of the people is
Mhm.
ये जब 80s में क्राइम हो रहा था उस वक्त ट्रूडो का पिताजी थे
Correct. And those
प्राइम
those
मिनिस्टर.
days, it wasn't that bad actually. It was like mostly it was the mafia that was very active.
That's when the Air India bombing happens in that time frame.
Yes, yeah, but it was
Okay,
still in
and
the terrorism and all that was in the very preliminary stage, because that is the time when Canada welcomed a whole bunch of refugees who came from India. Because if you remember, 1984, Indira Gandhi, who was the Prime Minister of India, was assassinated by her own guards, by her own Sikh guards, and as a result, the Congress Party went on a rampage in New Delhi and Punjab and surrounding areas, and killed and massacred a whole bunch of Sikhs. Okay, anybody who's wearing a turban, anybody who is a Punjabi, anybody with a Sikh background was literally massacred in India by the Congress Party workers. Okay, and nobody was spared, unfortunately, and as a result, the so-called Sikhs who are kind of getting frustrated with what was going on in the government and what was
And
going on.
see, Vinay Ji, let's not go there, because yeah, before that, Congress party, through the Khalisani terrorists and the Sikh terrorists, they were butchering Hindus. Okay,
Yeah.
before
I mean,
this, so they were
that
on
is,
the both the sides of the genocide. Okay, what we call.
so
Hundreds
that
of
has happened.
thousands were
Their
massacred.
main thing was appeasement politics, right?
Yeah,
Here
first
they
they
wanted
killed.
to.
First they killed this. Okay, now having said that, the second thing I want to bring it to the attention of the people before as we continue, Vinayji, the second thing you said, very valuable point, was during the 2015 time, the crime rate dropped. Okay, you said. Okay,
Up
and I
to,
want to
no,
let
no,
the people.
up to 2015.
No, decade before that. I mean to say, decade
Correct.
before that.
Decade before that.
And I want to bring it to the attention. That's when the Stephen Harper was president, prime minister of
Prime
Canada.
Minister, correct.
And
And
he was very strict
I will tell
from
you
Conservative
today,
Party.
like, going back to the history of Canada, Stephen Harper was and has been and will be the best prime minister of Canada that has ever produced. Okay.
And he
So,
is from Conservative Party, but that doesn't guarantee all the conservative leaders will be like that. But he was one of the best.
no.
There is no
I'm
question
like
about it.
the way I look at the politics, right? I don't really believe in parties. I believe in leaders. Okay.
Mhm.
Leadership is very important. Okay. I mean, we've had some bad leaders in Canada, in both sides, and as a result, it's the party that has been blamed. But this time, I'm not going to blame anybody, but I'm just going to say that Stephen Harper was one of the best prime ministers of Canada, or the best
And
prime minister.
and and on the same token, Justin Trudeau is one of the worst. So you are kind of having
No. So sorry, you're mistaken. You don't say one of the worst, the worst.
the worst than his dad.
Exactly. Okay. So anyway, coming back to the topic, right? So just going back to that 1984, as a result, many people, many Sikhs came and sought refuge in Canada. And then at the time it was still kind of very, very premature, right? And there was no political gain or anything. And the funny thing was, these people, so-called Sikhs, eventually they were working on this, forming this organization, or it was kind of mostly formed, I should say, called the Khalistani whatever organization, right? And they were trying to create a separate state in India for the Sikhs. Okay, so but that never happened, obviously, because of
With the
the.
help of Pakistan and Canada.
Correct. And Congress was very vehement about that they will not allow that, which was at least a good thing that they did not allow that, because they sent the Indian army to the Golden Temple where terrorists were flushed out, including Bindranwale and all that. So that's a big history for another day. But I'm just going to say that at the time when all this happened, the terrorism and everything was preliminary. But now, after Mr. Trudeau took over in 2015, the linear growth of crime in Canada has been exponential, I should say. All right, and in the last 8 years, 2015, I would say that the crime rate of Canada has peaked so much that many countries who are supposed to be the crime capital of the world, they'll be put to shame, because in Canada everything is okay, everything goes on. AK-47s are normally held by terrorists, but in Canada AK-47 is a free weapon. People use
You,
it for.
you are absolutely right, Vinayji. Here, even the plumber holds AK-47, like
Exactly.
Niger.
Yeah, for hunting, for showing off, for photo op and whatever, right? They use AK-47. And then started the influx of refugees, influx of students, mainly coming from Punjab and that area. And many of these people were indoctrinated. They were kind of they're brainwashed, to kind of join and support this Khalistani organizations. And then what happened at the same time in India in 2014, Bharatiya Janata Party, which is BJP, came to power, and Modi became one of the most popular leaders in the world. Okay, Prime Minister of India, and then the Congress stood for elections against the Modi government in 2019, and they lost miserably. Okay, miserably is like today the BJP government has 2/3. They control 2/3 majority in the Lok Sabha in India. So this was unprecedented. And then the Saffron Party, which is BJP, pretty much wiped out the existence of Congress across the country in many states. Okay, so if you look at it, many states were just clean swept by Saffron Party. So that really did not kind of go well with the Congress, and then they started funding ISI, who indirectly started funding Khalistanis. All right, now this is what
and one thing is weird. One thing is weird is these people support Congress still. The people who did the genocide, the Khalistani guys.
That is what I'm coming to exactly. The irony of this whole thing. It is the Congress party that actually was involved in the genocide of the Sikhs, and many of them left India because of the mass killings of Sikhs in India. And who was behind all of this? The Congress party. Why were they behind this? Because the Sikhs apparently killed their leader Indira Gandhi. So that is why they were really, really, really upset about the Sikhs, and they started killing them, and openly, right? So unfortunately, what has happened is the Khalistanis, today's Khalistanis, are now kind of indirectly or directly, I would say, supporting the Congress party, and they are taking funding from Congress party, not directly, through ISI. And ISI, which is a Pakistani spy agency, is now hand in glove with Congress. Like, what is it coming to? Where is the politics going? All because they want to come back to power.
But Vinay Ji, say me about it. What it has to do with the Canadian police?
See, the thing is, end of the day, right? See, the Canadian police is not equipped. Basically, if you look at what Mr. Clements said, the Canada has been left utterly unprepared to combat the sophistication of today's transnational criminals. This is in Clements' own words, right? And basically what it means is Canadian police, and including the RCMP, is not prepared for the kind of crime that is going on in Canada. Because, initially, originally, it was all mainly crime was like murder. Murder was the biggest. And it was mostly petty theft or burglary and some mafia activities and some extortion and this and that and a little bit of this and that, right? It's all what is normal in most of the developed countries. But what is happening is what is happening in the developing world, not only the developing world, but also in many of the countries that are under in war, that are under total terrorist control, I should say, like Syria, like Iran, and many other countries who are governed by terrorists and terrorist organizations, like Afghanistan and those countries. So it's unfortunate that today Canada has come down to that.
Wow. It's now I have one मेरा एक लास्ट सवाल है आपसे विनय जी कि ये जो पन्नू ने अभी बोला, ये जो खालिस्तानी टेररिस्ट पन्नू ने बोला, पार्लियामेंट को तोड़ देंगे बम रख के, ऐसा कुछ बात किया अभी एयर इंडिया के बाद में, none of these western countries, okay, either it is Canada or it is US where he is operating from, They don't want to do any action. They want to bully India. Do you think they will be successful with it, or they are ruining themselves?
See, the thing is with
By protecting these guys.
Canadian government or the US or whatever, right? It all comes down to appeasement. Okay, what used to happen in India a long time ago under Congress's rule, appeasement politics was a big thing. Okay, appeasing the minorities, appeasing the voter base that is not, uh, that's not majority. So the majority in India are Hindus, right?
No,
Here,
and also bullying the non-white country that is on the rise,
correct,
and
and
which they couldn't
that's
digest.
another thing that was happening in the past. But today, the Indian government is extremely powerful, and they don't care at all about the Western bullying or Western trying to their policies and all that stuff, right? So what's happening is uh, United States and Canada was not expecting this. These countries were not expecting this from a country like India, because India was always kind of submissive, subdued, and was willing to do anything for the
Under
country.
Congress, under
Yeah,
Congress, Gandhi
under
Parivar.
Congress rule in the past, and they were willing to do anything. If the U.S. Diktat is like, okay, you have to let this person go. Sure, sir. It was like, I agree, sir. I whatever, sir. So this is how the philosophy used to be under Congress's rule. But today, the government in India doesn't give a damn. They basically said a few months ago, if you remember, that you should not be buying oil from Russia. They said, screw you. We are not, under any
Yeah,
threat or obligation from you. We do what we
absolutely.
want. It's in the best interest of the country. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is just quickly there are a couple of things. Number one, like I said, appeasement politics, and which is why people in the country, like in the politicians in US and Canada, are afraid to take any actions against these so-called terrorists and people who are behind these
मगर
extortion
ये एक भी
rackets.
होता है ना विनय जी, ये एक और चीज होता है, अगर इनका टेररिज्म का डेफिनेशन है, अगर आप व्हाइट पीपल के खिलाफ किया तो
Exactly. So they basically are not even doing anything against money laundering is a big thing. Narcotics is a big thing. Organized crime has become much more than what it used to be in the 70s and 80s under several other gangs used to be around those days. But today's organized crime is going to put those other gangs in the 70s and 80s to shame. There's Chinese interference. Chinese government set up police stations in Canada. What did they do? Nothing so far. Terrorism and more. So all this, they're not doing anything because they are afraid that if they take any action against these people, they're going to lose their elections. And guess what? All this in the interest of only their personal gain, but not in the interest of the country. Like, how is this possible? How is this true? Like, this is I'm
and
thinking I'm living in some kind of a la la land. Sometimes I kind of wonder,
absolutely.
like, what is wrong with these politicians? And number two, I'll tell you, with the judicial system as well, I'm pretty sure that the judicial system in Canada needs a kind of complete overhaul, I should say, because here, like, if you commit a crime, like any serious crime, you're pretty much just given a slap on your wrist and say, okay, don't do it next time, go home. Because again, it's all about people who are committing these kinds of crimes are all the minorities in the country. And unfortunately, the judicial system obviously needs an overhaul. Like I said, they need amendments to the law, they need amendments to the legal system and the criminal procedure codes and all that stuff, but they're not doing any of that. I mean, look what's happening in India. India has kind of come up with a huge change. We have lived in India, people have lived with a system, a legal system that's about over 150 years old, that was brought in by the British, and the Congress did not do anything about it. Today, because the BJP controls 2/3 majority in the parliament. Many bills are being passed. The entire legal system is getting overhauled. Who has
Yeah.
the guts to do that in
Yeah.
Canada? Nobody.
Absolutely, absolutely, Vinay ji. But I wish and pray. Canada was a steak country tha pahle. Abhi the people will be getting used. See, one of the thing. This is my last word on it. That is when Karima Baloch, the Baloch activist, was murdered by the ISI, and the Canadian government did the cover up, calling it as a suicide, and no case of Hindu temple vandalizing, no Hindu business vandalizing, nothing came to a conclusion because they are so petty for them,
Exactly.
compared to.
On the same note, I'm going to say many of these killings are because of all the gang wars that's going on, because these are all organized crime. But guess what? Because they don't want to blame anybody inside, now Canada decided, okay, they'll start blaming India for this. This is
Yeah,
unfortunate.
this is unbelievable. But what do you think, folks? ये बहुत serious concern है कि Canadian police, okay, they serve their bosses naturally, right? It's kind of a political appeasement they do with the politicians, and ये सब control होता है इनके द्वारा, ये जो elements हैं उनके द्वारा. But what do you think? Let us know. Very serious condition in Canada. Like Vinay Ji explained, Canada is a crime capital, unable to handle. This is not said by Bharat Marg or Vinay Ji here in Bharat Marg or anybody. This is said by the RCMP, which is the police wing of Canada. Okay, this is unbelievable. What do you think? Do comment and let us know. Thank you, Vinay Ji, for joining us in the show, and looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you again. Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna.